Good morning. This is Doug Blair in Waterloo, Ontario. It's a Sunday, the 24th, I believe, of January. I've been doing a bunch of reading and watching of biographical videos on William Carey. William Carey is often considered to be the grandfather of missions and a movement to leave one's own community and district to transport the good news of the four Gospels and the book of Acts, primarily, and the letter to the Galatians to unchurched areas, distant areas. And back in the 1700s, when this whole brilliant realization came to Carey, it was considered a most unpopular thing on the part of the organized churches, particularly the Church of England, in which Carey initially found himself. He went on to leave that liturgical background for more of a word-based environment in the Congregational Church and ultimately in the Baptist Church, because he was really earnestly searching help, support, patronage, if you will, to go abroad. Carey was an avid reader, an avid student, an avid linguist. And in the early days, he had himself a little cottage where he fixed shoes and made shoes. He was a cobbler. But there would always be a book in his hand, or a passage of scripture, or a map of the world. His imagination was caught by the record of Captain James Cook, who went around the world, visited many South Sea islands, saw cultures and environments that no one in Great Britain had ever seen. And Carey was fascinated by the prospect of going to such a remote land and bringing the good news of Jesus and his saving opportunity, the only saving opportunity, in fact. Initially, there was no success, there was no support, and it was a difficult struggle just to keep enthusiasm up. But Carey persevered, and eventually he got to go. And initially, he went without his wife, Dorothy, and tried to preach. And it turned out that preaching was not going to be his main emphasis. For more than 6 years, latterly joined by his wife, he tried this method and never saw a single conversion. 6 years. And it dawned on him that it was going to take the local language, local ministers, and something that was other than European, impacting and in fact offending these people of the subcontinent. But he started with a fervor, translating portions of the New Testament into various of the dialects and languages of India. And this was to be his great measure for the remainder of his life, Bible translation, coupled with a vigorous battle to see the outlawing or the termination of the Eastern custom of seti, S-E-T-I. This was all tied in with reincarnation and the Eastern religions, and it involved the burning alive of a widow in the wake of her husband's death, so that she might join him in the afterlife, and so that they might both rejoice in a greater existence next time round. And this whole doctrine of devils, reincarnation, would also have the Careys observing, horrified, the sacrifice of infants to carnivorous river turtles, the burning of handicapped relatives in a pit of coals. And when that individual tried to climb out, the relatives would simply smile and push him back in to a horrid death. Seti was primarily the widow thing, but all these other things were going on, and eventually it drove Carey's wife into mental illness. And in the latter years of his life, he really didn't have manifestation of the love of Dorothy. She was paranoid, raving. A sad, sad story. A sad, sad sacrifice, in fact, for the sake of the good news of the gospel. There was also an institute that Carey was involved in establishing. It was a renowned college of faith and academics and social advancement in India. All of these things, the result of a man who dared to dream, dared to go beyond the conventional, dared to look beyond the criticisms and the doubts of those who were stuck in their ways. They as much as said, well, if God really wants to go there, he's going to raise the measures, the instruments, the resources to see it happen. We're not leaving the place where we've been planted. Our providence is to be here and to be preaching in Great Britain. And of course, we see the same thing in the Western countries right now. We're so fattened at the table. We're so reluctant to go out to places where they're starving for the good news. They're starving for hope and love and trust and honesty and compassion. Well, Carey was an instrument of all of these things, and a biography well worth examining. So I'll leave it with that, and I thank you for your attention. Bye for now. This is Doug Blair.